Hey, brothers and sisters, this is a recording more specifically for my brothers. I want to give y'all just some direct, straight up encouragement and understanding that you're not alone in what you're going through and what you do. Not only do other brothers see it, but sisters see it, and most importantly, God sees it. The temptations and things that are set before you every day, you're not the only one. Everyone else is seeing it and understanding it, and they're counting on you. They're counting on you in ways more than you can understand. In the midst of while you're going through it, it might just seem like it's you yourself, and you think if you give into that temptation per se for lust, for porn, for sleeping with that girl, to smoke that weed, just to do that drugs, just to skip work, and etc. You think in that moment it's just yourself. You think, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not bringing anybody down. It's just myself. But really, you are. You're bringing yourself down because you're giving up and forfeiting things that were supposed to be given to you, such as power. God said he didn't give us a spirit of fear. And the first thing he says is, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And the moment you reject his spirit, his Holy Spirit, and walk in the flesh, you're forfeiting power. And then in forfeiting power, how are you going to then be able to protect those who you love? If you can't even protect and take care of yourself, say you're drowned in the water and you can't swim because you haven't been taught and trained, how in the world would you be able to save yourself, let alone your wife or your significant other or your children? In that same exact metaphor and extreme is how you need to understand the decisions that you make on your small daily choices, whether, as I already said, about doing the drugs, about skipping work, about lying, about being an adulterer, about cheating, about even pridefully cheating in regards to work, about cutting corners and because nobody knows or sees and you think it's justifiable. Those things, they start off small as a foothold, but they grow and they grow strong. Brothers, you guys got to get more focused, especially in regards to your eyes. Men, we know we look at the physical, especially in regards to a woman, as I mentioned in a video the other day, just for you to give understanding of how clear this is. And don't be deceived. Don't be so foolish to think people don't know that the angels left and forfeited their place of power and authority to come mate and sleep with women. It's clear women are beautiful and they're attractive in all those aspects, but when you get on your phone and you're just scrolling and you slowly allow your eyes to gaze upon a woman's nakedness and sensuality and sexuality, and you think it's small, and the next thing you know, later on that night, you're given into temptation sexually, like porn, or per se, say you're like, all right, I don't watch porn, and you try to act as if you're holier than thou because you don't watch porn, but yet what do? You mate with the woman physically. You actually go full blown, do the whole thing, rather than just in your mind and or your heart. God even says if you look upon a woman, it's the same thing as sleeping with them. Everybody has to understand that God's given us these stories. Per se, David, God gave us David and him looking over and checking out Bathsheba to give us an example of what you would do if you had the power to do it. So you doing it willfully in your heart and your mind and saying nobody else, you didn't affect anybody or you didn't do anything, it's the same thing as if you did. It's just you don't have the capabilities to, so you don't. And then those for the brothers who are able and capable of actually sleeping and mating with these women outside of marriage, the things God hates. Sexual morality, you will not enter the kingdom. These are things God hates. Do not consider yourself a follower of Christ or a man if you consistently and continuously walk in this way. It is one thing if you fall short. It is one thing if you fall down. But to continuously and consecutively, without a repetitive heart, without pleading to the Lord to forgive you and or chastise you, discipline is good, brothers. If you hate discipline, that's a valid mark of that you are not his child. God will discipline you when he loves you. You should get spanked. You should get chastised. You should get corrected. Now, obviously, there's a balance because while all that's true, you're going to pray and hope that God does it in his kindness and not his wrath because you don't want to piss off God. That's self-explanatory. With that being said, next time you're walking with your boys and you're going to the gym or you're going to play basketball, you're pulling up at the court, etc., and there's some shorties walking by and they're wearing revealing clothes. And of course, in the fleshly regard, you got your brothers right there who are all checking her out, like calling, saying, you already know how guys talk and how it is. We all know how that is. And you're claiming to be a follower of Christ. What are you gonna do? That's where your testing comes. It starts off small, bro. It's like children with their parents, how they know better not to curse in front of them originally, but what happens when they slowly work their way up from saying dang to damn and then etc. and so on? What happens? Eventually they're full blown saying any and whatever swear word because the parent didn't keep them in check. It's that same thing. Now, obviously, in this example, I'm talking to brothers that maybe also have others around them that claim to be followers of Christ. If these are non-believers, you can't hold them to that standard because they claim not to be followers of the Lord. So how could you hold them to it? You cannot. But you can be a light. You cannot say anything or maybe explain to them, yeah, they are wearing this and that, and yeah, they are revealing, and yeah, they are selling their body, and yeah, they're just giving it up. But that's not what I want. I want the real deal. I want purity. I want love. I want marriage. I want loyalty. I don't want somebody that just anybody can have or anybody can look at. I want what's mine. You can be a light and show in that regard. And then furthermore, especially if these guys around you claim to be followers of the Lord and then yet they speak this way, these are vile things and they boast about it and openly say, while at the same time saying that they're a follower of Christ in your presence, and then yet you claim to be a follower of Christ. It's kind of like when somebody pulls up on you and they claim to be your friend, and they come to tell you a story about a third friend, a mutual friend, who's gossiping and slandering you. And they go on ranting for, say, 10 minutes straight. Yeah, and he was saying this, and he was saying that about you, and all this. If you think about it, why was he saying all that so comfortably in front of you? And yet you didn't say anything. It's self-evident. You can kind of tell and see and clearly find out who they are through their fruit. You see, if they're that comfortable to talk and slander and gossip all about you right in front of their presence, then they may not very well have that much reverence or fear or respect out of y'all's loyalty for each other in regards to the friendship. The same thing goes with God. God's going to be like, they were saying all that and you didn't say nothing? It's because you feared losing them as your friend over me. You feared man over God. This is God. This is a no contest. That's the problem. Us brothers, us men, we haven't been doing what we're supposed to do. You got to speak up. And you got to be bold. And if not, then accept that you're a coward and embrace that. But don't call yourself a follower of Christ. Don't call yourself a man of God. Don't say that you believe. God even says the demons believe and shake and shudder. Believe means nothing. Walk it out. If you really believe, you'll walk it out. The faith and the actions and the works will all be there. They all go hand in hand. A good tree will what? Bear good fruit. It will be evident. And therefore, with that being said, you need to be encouraging. You need to start calling out people. And not just, as I said, I made a video earlier about the ladies, but for your brothers, man, call them out. Like, bro, you bugging. Like, you tripping. Like, why are you being harsh on your wife? Overly harsh, overly abusive, tyrannical. Guys, as I mentioned earlier, for us brothers, He calls us something greater. It's just that simple. We are to lead. To whom much is given, much is required. And he says, husbands, love your wives. Loves. Do not be harsh. You need to be gentle. To love, there's the vast amount of things that go into love. In order to love, you got to be patient. It's just like when you're playing a sport and say you're new at it. When you have that guy on your team that's just rough and harsh, he's been playing the sport 10 years. You're day one, and he's just calling you out and calling you a scrub and harsh and everything because you're brand new. Of course you can't do it. It's going to be that same regard about one day what happens when you're that guy, or it's a new sport. Say y'all change up and you're like, all right, let's play a different sport or a different game. And now you're the one 10 years deep in with experience and you're the veteran. Are you going to then therefore treat him the same way as he treated you? Because that's when you're losing, bro. Just because he did that don't make it right. But show him and be the example of, hey, this is what it feels like when you have more power, and I'm not going to be a tyrant on you. I'm not going to abuse you and call you whack or weak or a loser just because you're not as good as I am. You got to understand, seasons change, and there's a lot of roles we play. And in certain roles, you may be the leader, but in other roles, you may not. You have to understand who you are, your balance, and things of. And for the men, the key of being who you are is going to be God-fearing and honoring him. Having integrity. We need integrity, you guys. You guys got to have integrity when nobody's watching. This stuff will play and your power will start to grow. It will grow tremendously if you have integrity. And for most of you, the number one thing is going to be lust, sexual morality. God's given us Solomon to show us a man with 700 wives, 300 concubines. Why did God give us him? He gave us him to give us the most extreme case of having all the carnal, pleasure, fleshly things you could possibly have, and none of it was sufficient. There will not be another man as Solomon on this earth. God gave us the most extreme to show us that none of it will do it. You need God in everything. You need to honor him and trust him. Don't be prideful about what you have, at least in regards to you building it or do it. If you have it, give praise and give honor to the Most High for the one that's given you everything you have. Your physicalities, your possessions, your mental, your cognitive functioning, your business, your family, everything. He's the one that gave you it all. If not, you stiffen your neck pridefully and continuously walk in the flesh. denying God, he says you will be broken beyond healing. I hope you brothers seek God. God bless.